The thoughts and opinions shared in this podcast are just that. It's up to the listener to decide what is true and what is not true. This podcast talks about domestic violence and death. It contains adult themes and coarse language. If you need help or you are affected by such issues, you can contact your nearest help centre, such as Lifeline on 131114 or DV Connect on 1800 811 811. Discretion is advised. G'day guys, welcome to Beenham Valley Road's bonus episode, a Plog featuring Tom. I sat down with Tom and we discussed the case, and we also discuss the reason he stepped away from Beenham Valley Road. Okay, so it's a sunny Saturday and I'm sitting on Tom's front porch in Gympie, and I haven't seen you, Tom, for quite a few months now, I think.
Couple months,
since Missing Pieces, episode 5, I think, the last time I saw you. Yeah. So I've just come up here to try and interview Bobby. I didn't locate him, but you guys had my kids while I went and did that. Out of control.
Yeah, huh? I don't think we've got any ice cream.
Wait till after. Can you please?
Just stay at the back, shish. I won't be long.
Yeah. Anyway, I haven't seen Tom for a while. I tried to interview Bobby. So you know who Bobby is, right?
Yeah.
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 So things have, like, you've been following.
I have. I'm an avid listener.
Yeah. Avid listener.
First time caller.
Yeah. So, look, I also have to give you a warning. If banter offends, tune out now. Because I know a few of you don't like banter. So you may as well hit the stop button on this one, because there's a fair bit of it coming up.
They must be pretty sad people. For banter.
Yeah. Anyway, so Bobby has this house, allegedly, that was across the road from one of the schools in Gympie. And a few people have told me now, Sean, Damo and Tamika, have told me about this house where Bobby might live, where they all went that night afterwards. And so naturally, I'm trying to track it down so I can ask about what car they drove and just to interview him in general. But you get there and it's like this, they've got this makeshift fence where they've got chicken wire all around it and sort of made it pretty hard to get into. Like, not impossible, but just uninviting. There's no car there. I don't think anyone was home. I went to the next door neighbour's house. It was for sale. There was no one in there. Knocked on the door. Then went to the other side of the street, and that person never heard of Bobby, and they've been there for 2 years. So anyway, it fell up short, but interestingly enough, Bobby apparently, according to Nakota, drove maybe a Saab car. Anyway, it was not a white Commodore, according to Nakota. And I spoke to Sam, and she didn't have that colour car either, a white car. And speaking to Katie on the last episode, she mentions to me that her theory is, just from knowing Jason for being with him for 13 years, that he might have made that call saying, I fucked up, and then called his mum, and she thinks his mum would have said, leave, like, get out of there.
Yeah. That sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And to tie that together with what Evelyn said, she sees at 8 o'clock in the morning, she sees a white car, rock up to what she thinks looks like a man and a woman get out of the car and approach the front door and stay for a time. Doesn't know how long, but they were there for a bit. So, I mean, that could be, or Jason and Jane, his mum, returning to find Kira in the state she was in, right?
Every likelihood, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I'll speak properly.
What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I was saying to you before, that sounds so simple in theory, but it's something that a lot of people seem to have overlooked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't think that.
No, like,
when we first
what is
started.
the chances that he left that night somehow, by some means, and returned the following day to find Kira in the state that she was in? Then decided to, found that she, had defecated and urinated herself, tried to put her in the shower. obviously they called Nakota. Nakota told them to call an ambulance. But according to Katie, Jason's dad called her and informed her of what happened and said that they called 13 Health first.
The question for me is, how did she get into that state? As in, how did Kira get into the state that she was found in? That's the real question. I think whatever happened between the second before she got hurt to the second after she was found or the ambos came, obviously that's a missing piece, right? Hence the name of the episode. I guess the question that has eluded everybody. Sorry, not the question that has eluded everybody, but the answer to the question that has eluded everybody is, how did she get into the state that she got in? That's the real issue here. Well, everything else is circumstantial, like whether Jason came or went, how he came or went, who came or went, who picked whoever up. All that other stuff is secondary to why was Kira in the state that she was in.
Yeah, why and how did she get to the state that she was in?
To me, that's the real question.
It is the real question, yeah.
So all the other stuff is circumstantial. Important, but circumstantial. It's getting evidence to categorically say how she got to the physical state that she was in.
So there's only a handful of ways to get that, and that's from Jason himself, which I haven't heard any response from him in prison, where I sent that letter inviting him to participate in the podcast. And the other place to get that from would be anyone he has told. So family or friends. We have been in contact with one or two people who he's said things to, but...
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly said things to. But, you know, as far as Nakota and Tamika and Sean and Damo and Evelyn and all those people that I've interviewed so far, none of them say... They allude to the fact that he's done it, but they don't say what he's done and how he's done it.
Yeah, and that is probably the piece that is really missing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything else can be somewhat pieced together.
Yeah, so Tom, everyone's really keen to hear how you are and what's going on in your world.
In my world, I'm good. I'm good. I realise that my departure from the project was probably a little abrupt, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm good now. I've said before in past episodes, well, we both have actually, that mental health struggles are pretty real for us. Not that they're not real for anybody else, but so I'm on the tail end of it now, though. So it has been a pretty tough couple of months for me mentally. But I've made sure that I've, stayed healthy, and I just had to prioritise a few things first, just to make sure that I was, being responsible at home. Because in the past I've tended to, when I've had mental health struggles, I've tended to really divert my attention to things that haven't been helpful. So I really, now that I'm 32 and a father of two, I really had to take some time for myself, probably for the first time ever, just to actually get on top of it. And I think I'm pretty well doing that, which is ballsy as well, because it's not easy to say, look, I need to step back. Yeah. It's not easy to sometimes make that call. No. Particularly when you feel like you're letting people down, and particularly when you feel like you're being a bit selfish about it. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of people with mental health struggles constantly feel, that they're, by seeking help or taking time for themselves, they're being selfish. Yeah. And it's something that I've certainly struggled with and still do. But such was the intensity of my struggle for me that I really had to take some time to work through it. Well, I can tell you from me and from our whole listenership, it wasn't selfish, and everybody, myself included, just want the best for you, and whatever that means,
is up to you. How you're going to go about that. And I think taking time like you did and making that call, you're the only one that can make that call. And I think it's the best thing is to look after yourself. And like you said, you're 32 now. And yeah, if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, just to clarify too, like a lot of my mental health struggles aren't, you know, police related. I've had a lot of, you know, people reach out and, you know, say it must have been because of what you saw in the police or whatever, but no, not necessarily. I'm predisposed to certain conditions like around anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder and stuff. So it wasn't, you know, my mental health struggles have been with me since I was a little kid. So yeah, that was the reason for that. But you know, look, as I said, I've stayed healthy. I'm, you know, still training and got a fight coming up. So, you know, I've still managed to stay relatively active and stuff. I just, you know, really had to really for once take a bit of time to work through it. Whereas before I would have just sort of immersed myself in work or something else. And that just hadn't worked out for me in the past. So now that I've got actual responsibilities, it was not going to work out for me again.
In as much detail as you're comfortable with, like what, I guess some of the feedback I've got, yeah, is like what you said. Was it because of the police? Was it because of the podcast? Like, do you have any way of answering that? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know how to word it.
Yeah, it was probably just bad timing. Like, you know, the fact that we were doing this and the success that it had or has or still does have was mind blowing for both of us, I guess. So in short, no, my struggles weren't police or aren't police or podcast related. As I said, they're pre-existing struggles that I've had around anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder since I was a little boy. So it was just unfortunate that there was a spike in that during recording of this project, which was hard because, you know, we've, I guess, spent a lot of time together, as in you and I have. We've also spent a lot of time with people like Alison and, you know, making sure that these really raw subjects that we're dealing with are treated with as much sensitivity as we can. So pulling out of something like that midway through was a very, very difficult moral decision for me as well. But look, yeah, basically, if you want the nuts and bolts of it, a couple of, well, it's probably a year or so ago now, I had a really bad obsessive compulsive episode where something triggered some health anxiety in me, and it was nothing serious. In fact, it was nothing at all. But for those of you out there that suffer with anxiety and in particular health related anxiety, you know, these triggers can be very, very real and very, very crippling. So that took me and it still is taking me a long time to get over. It was just unfortunate that when we started recording BVR, I was in the midst of that. So I was spending a lot of energy trying to deal with that and deal with the project and deal with training for a you know, boxing match and trying to be a dad and trying to work full time and trying to be a husband. And so, you know, it was just a lot at once. I'm also naturally pretty introverted. So, you know, I think we've talked about this before, whereas, you know, you might, your way of dealing with things might be talking it out or, you know, just reaching out. Mine is the complete opposite. So I tend to shut myself away to try and work through it. And obviously in a space like this where you've got people messaging you on Facebook and, you know, reaching out to you digitally, and, you know, you walk down the street and someone asks, "Oh, are you that guy that hosts Beenham Valley Road or whatever?" That I'm just not really comfortable with that.
And the workload is immense, eh? It was kind of something that...
It's huge. I don't think people out there realise how immense it actually is. Yeah, coupled with the fact that you and I live 50 minutes apart, coupled with the fact that we're both trying to be dads and husbands and work and stuff as well. It's absolutely huge. Yeah.
And throw a bit of mental health in there just for fun.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, we were really trying to do the right thing by a lot of different people. And, you know, we made the commitment to release episodes every fortnight or every week. And yeah, it was a huge, huge responsibility. Yeah, for me. And you've done such a fantastic job.
That was a moral decision for me too, mate. Like, I knew that the best thing for you was, because I remember that exact moment where it did hit you, like the current wave that you're in surfaced. And I remember that moment and where you did sort of withdraw, and like you said, the opposite of what I would do, which is just what everyone has their own way of dealing with things. But I remember that one point, and when we decided that you would pull out, it was a real moral decision for me whether I should keep going or not, because I didn't want to make you feel in that situation where you would feel guilty, like without needing to feel guilty at all. Yeah, because I didn't want you to feel selfish. I didn't want you to feel guilty or left out or anything. And that was a real hard decision for me to make. Like, should I pull up stumps as well?
Yeah.
Or because I've made that, I've come so far with Alison and done so much, do I keep going? And it was a real tough call to make.
Yeah.
Obviously, I chose.
Yeah, to keep going, which was definitely the right. It definitely was. Absolutely, it was.
But I mean, you're a part of it just as much as I am, and it's just a season you're in at the moment. But yeah, you definitely don't have to feel guilty or selfish or anything like that.
No, I appreciate that. And look, everyone's
you are
been
an arsehole, but you're not selfish.
Everyone's been very supportive and curious, I suppose. So it's probably a good way to clear the air.
And the fact that we had that mental health plog, it shouldn't surprise anyone.
Oh, no.
That we had issues or that this happened. Like, it wasn't like it came totally left field.
No, that's right. And look, you know, in times gone past, I would have just done my darndest to make sure no one heard this. But, you know, it's out there, so you've got to just got to talk about it. It's not an easy thing to do, but you just have to. You know, I think too, a lot of people out there probably feel the same way. I guess that, you know, by talking about it, they're somehow, I don't know, admitting some sort of weakness. But, and I thought like that for a long time as well. But you just got to talk about it. Just really got to talk about it. I mean, I've got to, you know, sat for a 6-hour tattoo this morning, and the conversations that I was having with my artist were around anxiety and stuff too. And, you know,
he's really anxious about tattooing people.
He was really, yeah. I was really anxious getting tattooed. He was anxious tattooing me.
It was just an anxious party.
It was just an anxious moment. It's just an anxious moment. So, you know, like everybody out there deals with shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've also found a lot of comfort in my faith as well. I think we've talked about it before. That Christianity is a big part of my life, and you know, I have a really close group of people that I do Bible study with and speak with and stuff, and that's, you know, I've lent on that as well. I'm not going to start preaching here; it's not the time or place. But I've felt a lot of comfort in that space as well. Yep.
Well, it's good that you got some support networks around you, because that's the main thing, right? Like, you need that foundation there, otherwise.
Yeah. Look, I'm very fortunate that I've got the tools to do that. Not everybody else does. I mean, I've got money, I've got people around me, I've got family.
Yeah.
I've got a extended family. I'm very, very, very fortunate in that way. Not everybody is, and that must just be ridiculously hard to go through that.
Another question that people haven't asked me so much but have alluded to, what's next for Tom? Like, what's the future of Tom with, like, blogging or podcasting? Like, where do you see yourself, or is that something you just can't think about right now?
Oh, no, I've definitely been thinking about it. And I think I've said to you, like, off air, I'm definitely going to be contributing to 610 Media our future projects, whether it's via blogs. I mean, I'm a writer by profession, so yeah, I love writing, and I'll continue to write about things that I think need to be written about. Yeah, it's just been a little busy trying to. I've pretty much what I've tried to do is give myself some time to make sure I'm 100% solid before I inject myself back into the fray. I need to pull out again, 6 weeks down the line.
Fair call, mate.
So I've had to try and just measure myself out with that. I've been guilty in the past of jumping in before I was really ready, just with the attitude of she'll be right.
Yeah.
I've come to realise that it's not always right.
Yeah.
And that you've got to, you do actually have to give yourself a bit of time.
If you were battling a crippling physical illness like the influenza or something, you'd have time off work. You'd be like, mate, I'm so sick, I can't get out of bed.
Correct, yeah.
But when it's mental health, it's just as crippling. It's just as hard to get through.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we have to keep, pulling through and pretending everything's okay.
Yeah, what's really funny is that 5 out of the 7 days a week, I'm in a boxing gym full of pretty hard dudes who want to hurt you. I can sit for 6.5 hour tattoos with no worries at all. I can put a sauna suit on and ride 50 Ks on a bike in 32 degree heat. But, someone mentions the word cancer.
Yeah, and you're gone.
And I'm gone. It's humorous when you put it like that.
Yeah.
It's actually quite funny.
Yeah. Well, mental health, like the way we speak about it in our Plog and stuff as well, it is funny to look back on it. Like,
it is funny.
Because if you don't laugh at it, you'll cry at it. Like, there's the irrational thinking behind anxiety is funny in hindsight.
Yeah.
To look back at how you have a little, sore wrists and you think, oh, well, it's definitely probably just from boxing, but all of a sudden you've got
leukemia.
wrist cancer.
Yeah.
Is wrist cancer even a thing? Well, it's bone cancer or whatever it is.
If you ask me, it's a thing.
Yeah. And then you do the old Google. What's a sore wrist? And, all of a sudden you've got 6 weeks to live.
I don't think people realise, I mean, people who suffer it probably do, but I don't think the general public realise how crippling having a health anxiety disorder actually is. They really don't.
Constantly checking your heart rate or
your
blood pressure.
Yeah, you know what it's like. But more than that, like thinking that you've got some sort of terminal illness and that you're going to die and you can't put your kids to bed because you don't want to look at them because you know that in 6 months' time you're going to be dead or something. Which is
quite dark, isn't it?
Oh, it's very dark. Yeah. It's extremely dark and completely illogical. How do you step inside a boxing ring and with the very, very real chance you're going to get knocked out and not give it a second thought? But the minute your wrist hurts from boxing, you think you've got Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
But in my mind and the way my brain is chemically made up, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But at least in your boxing fight you got coming up, you could be, when you're facing old mate off, just think, look, what's the worst you can do to me, mate? I've got 6 weeks to live anyway.
or I should just say, go easy. I've got, leukemia or something. Which
it's a real spanner in the works.
Yeah, and look, I'm saying that in jest because it's funny. But people, and the other thing too is that you battle these health anxieties knowing that there are actually people out there with the conditions that you're stressing out about, and you feel bad for articulating the fact that you think you've got it when you definitely don't.
Yeah.
And there are actually people out there with them who are actually battling it. It's, you can't explain how it makes
So don't take
feel.
offence to it. We're just laughing at the fact that in someone who's got anxiety's mind, they can create these diseases and they've got them, but...
That's right. And look, there's the thing that I've... so I've had... I see a psychologist, I see a counsellor. My wife's been really, really, really supportive. But the thing that I'm learning, though, about it is that things like health anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder come from sort of underlying factors. They're just manifestations of other conditions rather than, being exclusive. So, for me, I guess those thoughts or those conditions are a result of something else.
So something going on in your life.
Yeah, like some way of dealing with something. I'm not quite sure what that is, to be perfectly honest, but I know it's there. It's just a case of, maybe my time in the police did have something to do with it. I don't know. It certainly didn't help. But is it the root cause of it? No, I don't.
You had it before.
Had it before. So the question remains, or the question is, I guess, should, knowing that I've got those conditions, should I have gone into the police in the first place? The answer's probably no. But then I wouldn't have met you, and we wouldn't have been having this conversation, and we wouldn't have been able to. So shit works out.
That's right.
Unless you've got wrist cancer.
Yeah. Luckily, knock on wood.
Yeah, but for those of you out there,
you'll be booking a scan on Monday. No.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a ride, man. But look, there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about the work that you're doing, and I don't think about the good things that we've done so far with this. And I don't think about Alison and Kira and, all those really important people who have had a massive impact on our lives over the last year or so. It's just that, my way of dealing with it is not reaching out because I just don't.
You go inwards.
Yeah, I go inwards, and I just do it on the mandate that I don't want to reach out and make someone else's life hard when I can just deal with it myself. But at the same time, it's very important to reach out and talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucked cycle.
So, on the old 1 to 10 scale, do you think this wave that you've had was like worse than others you've had, or like have you been worse before?
It's been different because I've had more responsibility. Like being a father and a husband now, and having this project and stuff. I've had more responsibility, so it's been harder. Whereas before, I was only sort of affecting myself. It's been hard. It's probably been harder. Yeah, right. in that respect. Yeah,
because it can go both ways, really. Like the first time for me, anyway. The first time I realised, years ago that I had something going on in my head was terrifying. Very terrifying. If it happened again, I'd think, okay, I know what this is. So maybe it wouldn't be so terrifying because I know what it was. Yeah. But at the same time, they do say episodes can increase and
in intensity,
intensity and in length as well.
Yeah, I think it depends on what else is going on in your life.
Yeah.
I think that really determines how you feel about it and deal with it. Yeah.
But yeah, you're still you. You're still Tom. You still have a sense of humour. Just to fill in some blanks from people, and also for myself. And just wanted to know because I didn't know you, or I wasn't, sort of hanging around you when you've had those other episodes.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah.
Just sort of.
Yeah. And it's very hard to. I mean, even my wife, who doesn't suffer any sort of mental health issue, she was in the same boat. She didn't really know what to do or how to handle it. Such was the intensity of it. So, it's hard for the people around you too. Yeah. It's really,
did you get to the point where you're almost like, I need to take time off work?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. There was, yeah. Yep. Definitely. Yep. There was times there where it was very, very crippling. Yeah. And fortunately, I don't have depression. I think if I had depression on top of, and for those out there who don't know the difference, there's a big difference between anxiety and depression. I don't have depression. I still feel good about myself. I still feel good about the world. I still feel good about everything in it. So I think by not suffering depression, I think that was really the driving force. I could get out of bed and do things. I think if I had depression on top of it, I would have been a different story, I reckon. Yeah.
But it's devastating to hear. Devastating to hear that, how bad it got for you.
Oh yeah, like there was, I wasn't getting out of bed. I wasn't. I was getting out of bed, but I wasn't functioning as a, as a proper person. I was taking medication. I got prescribed medication too, which helped, but made me feel like a zombie. So there was that on top of it as well, So what's making me feel lethargic? Is it the massive dose of medication, or is it the Hodgkin's lymphoma I'm battling? Like that's the cycle that you're in.
I think the reason I ask is because most people understand, but there is probably a few people who would listen to that and go, you've taken a step back. But to actually put it in context of what your day-to-day life was like, you know what I mean? That sort of makes it a lot more clear for a lot of people that there was days where you could hardly get out of bed and you weren't functioning.
And there was, and I've got a bit of responsibility in my job as what most people do, where I have to be able to think about stuff and deal with things and be a relatively coherent type person. It took a lot of energy to be able to do my job, to the point where, I thought about taking a step back from my actual paid work as well, just to make sure that I wasn't jeopardizing anything in that regard. So it was real hard. Pretty much the only thing that got me going was the fact that I was still boxing. That was the one sort of anchor that I clung on to keep me healthy, because when I was training,
keep you accountable, having a time and a place.
Yeah, when I was training, I wasn't thinking about other stuff. The second before training started, I was, anxious. And the minute training finished, I was anxious. But for that hour and a half a day or 2 hours a day, all I could think about was boxing. So that played a huge part in my rehabilitation. Yeah.
Obviously, we could talk for hours about this, but thanks for opening up and clearing the airways a bit there.
That's
and
all right, no worries.
Sharing just a glimpse of your story.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've got lots more to talk about, but it's not over as far as 610 metre and you go. So
no, absolutely not. Not at all. I'll be back shortly, hopefully. Yep.
All right.
I'll get this fight out of the road first, and then I'll be back on deck.
Well, just get healthy and on behalf of BVR, mate, and 610 Media, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And
at my own house.
Thanks for looking at my kids. Looking after my kids for me.
No worries.
So that was my conversation with Tom, and by this point, our kids were just going AWOL, so we packed up and left it at that. But thanks, Tom, for sharing. It's not easy to talk about those issues, especially in such detail. If it resonated with you, or if you are going through things like that, just know you can reach out and talk to somebody. It does help. When you're in that mindset, you don't think it does, but it actually does. Stay tuned for the next episode of Beenham Valley Road. I'm not sure how many more episodes there will be. We are winding down. But again, thank you for the overwhelming support of all you guys. I really appreciate it. Until then, have a good one.